Hey, let's get our family of purples going. So to make purple, you need to mix red and blue. And when we mix red and blue together, we get purples. And remember that earth colors tend to go muddy, and um, synthetic colors tend to be brilliant, but the synthetic colors with purple is really dark. So we did some experimenting, and cobalt blue, even though it's an earth color, it makes a really wonderful purple because it's not half as dark as phthalo, which is the synthetic that I usually use. So let's go ahead and get some cobalt blue out here, and we'll put everything else away. Ooh. And so we'll get a good amount of cobalt. And then for my synthetic red, I don't want to use naphtha red because it will go all muddy, and so I'm going to use quinacridone red. And here's some quinacridone red. And first of all, I want to make a good purple. Make sure my palette knives are nice and clean and no nerds and noogies around. So I'm going to go ahead and just start mixing and see where I get. And I try to keep my blue clean of red, and just where do I land with this one. So that's kind of a sort of a reddish violet. I'm going to go ahead and put that over there and make some room for more of my violet. Maybe I might have to push that red violet down a little bit. And let's go ahead and get some of this in there and see if we can make a violet. Again, I want to homogenize it really well, because if I have any like unhomogenized paint when I paint it, we're going to get streaks of the colors that it came from, either quinacridone or cobalt blue. And that looks like a pretty good violet. Maybe, might be on a little bit on the blue side. So let's go ahead and take our blue pile and put it over here. And we can mix it up and take some of the stuff alongside. It's a little bit sunny out, so I'm going to keep spraying down my palette every now and then to keep my paint from drying out. And I feel like I can steal some from here and go ahead and make that a little bit less blue. So my blue on my beautiful color wheel here was a mixture of ultramarine blue and cobalt blue. So I want to go ahead and mix a little bit of that over here so I can have it next to my blue violet to see how big my jump is going to be. Whoa, that one's hard to open. So put a little down here. I don't want to mix any quinacridone red into it, so clean off my palette knife really well. And let's go ahead and mix up just a little bit of this. A little bit more cobalt. Make it to the blue that I think is my good mother blue. And then I want to put this over here. And I want to say, whoa, that's a really little jump. So I'm going to steal some more from here and put it in there to push this away. And that's a better jump. That's a pretty good jump. And then I want to look at this one and say, let's kind of spread this out a little bit. And let's go ahead and spread this out a little bit. And then I'm going to take this one and I'm going to mix it up a little better. I'm going to spread it out a little bit. I just grabbed a little bit more quinacridone red that I had over there. And I'm going to go ahead. So I want to put on this side my red that I use so I can see the jump from the red. And let's go ahead. I believe I used naphtha red, and so we're going to use Naphthol red again, and then get the paint out of the top and clean this out. Put that top back on. I'm going to take my other palette knife and screw it around there. And I feel like I could use some more red in here. And maybe even some more red. Remember, it does dry darker, but all these paints are wet, so they have to work next to each other. And that might be pretty good. I feel like these two are a little close, so I'm going to go ahead and scrape up some of this and put it in there. I also feel like I can have more of this paint, so I'm going to go ahead and get some more cobalt blue out. Whoops, that's manganese. Cobalt went over here. Manganese is a beautiful color of blue. And I'm going to go ahead and take this. I'm going to mix more in here. Of course, I'm going to need probably all this red. And now I'm getting a better pile of paint. Look at that. How's my jumping? This feels a little bit closer to the red now, so maybe I'll throw a little bit more purple in here. Just a little bit, maybe the scrapings of the side. And what do you think of that jump? I feel like these two are a little close, so I'm going to go ahead and scrape up some of this extra paint and go ahead and mix it in here. Maybe that was a little bit too much. Maybe it was just perfect. Again, I don't have a whole lot of this blue violet, and I feel like it could use a little bit more blue, so I'm happy with that. As long as it's on the violet side and not the blue side. And you know what? I feel like that's pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and move this so I don't get any ultramarine blue in there. And I'm going to go ahead and move this away so I don't get any Naphthol red in there. And I think I'm going to start with the blue violet. So I'm going to go ahead and take these guys, make a little wet place over here so they'll stay good for a while, and go ahead and put them over there. Let's go ahead and take the middle violet and put it over there. I might be sad I lost that paint. And this is pure blue, and I'm going to keep it there in case I need to mix up more. So let's go ahead and take this off. Spray it down a little bit and clean up my palette. Have to go put my doggie outside. Hey, shh. Go on outside. Nice little doggy barky break. And then I want to go ahead and get some white. And I want to make sure my palette knife is clean of all the other debris on it. And we'll start with the whites. So I'll put some white down here. I'll take some of that blue violet and I'll mix it in. And I'll put it over there and take some more and mix it in. So I can have an even step down to my lightest tint of blue violet. And I do love that color, it's so pretty. Okay, here's our lightest. And I think I'll scrape some of this up And make sure my palette knife is clean so I don't have tones when I go for my shades. And go ahead and mix that up. And I feel like if I take my Mother Blue Violet and put it over there, I feel like that's a big jump down, so I'm going to go ahead and mix a little bit more in there. And because I want a good amount of paint, I mix just a little bit more in there so I can have a pretty good pile. And maybe a little bit of white into that. And maybe a little bit more white. Let's go ahead and get a little bit more in there. And between those two, don't waste any paint if you can help it. Between these two, put a little bit more down. I feel like that's a pretty good jump. Let's go ahead and see if we can bring this up a little bit. And then, don't waste paint, try to get it all on your palette knife. And then we're going to go for our lightest. And that might be a little too light. I don't know what that is there, but I'll mix it in. And now these two feel a little close, but I like that going down there. So let's make these a little bit closer. Ooh, that went really close. Let's go ahead and take some of this up and mix it in this one. See if I can take it down as evenly as possible. And I think that one's pretty nice jump, and this one feels a little low, so we're going to mix what we have on our palette into this white one and call that maybe a little bit too much. I'll take a little bit more white from the side, the clean white, and put it in, and I feel like that's a pretty good run. So I'm going to go ahead and make some room. Don't have to clean up too much, maybe just a little bit. And move my camera so you can see over here a little bit further. And there's my color wheel. There it is. So we can go ahead and bring this on here and put in our blue violet. So we're starting over here, and I want to put something down so that I can keep that clean. Oops, let's get it so you guys can see. I think there's a tiny little piece of tape left on here. That's right, when I first started this I had tape. Into the middle. That one's good. I clean my brush. Get another piece of paper towel, and I'll go for my second color, my second tint. And as the color gets darker, I'm going to be able to see through to the paper a little bit more. So I might have to definitely give this 2 coats. 2 coats. It's almost a periwinkle. And next to this blue, it looks pretty close to blue, but as it dries, it's going to dry a little bit darker. So I think it will be right where we want it. I like to twist my paintbrush to get that paint off of it. So I can get paint on the paper and then kind of spread it around. Okay. Take number 1 off some other color. I love the quiet times in my studio. Since I have this down already, I'm going to go ahead and take the mother color and put it in the little blue-violet spot here. Oops. Had a little bit of a splash. Good thing I have some Q-tips. Clean that up. Okay. Let's move that around. I'm kind of pivoting on the heel of my hand right now, not so much on my little finger. Every day is different. Every day you have a little bit of a different feeling of how you're going to do things. It's kind of like some days you want to wear blue jeans and some days you want to wear a dress. Okay, that looks great for the blue violet. And I want to keep these paints nice and wet for my second coat. And I will gather them up and put them off to the side. And if they don't dry and I need more paint, I can always match it. So let's go ahead and put this somewhere for a minute. And we will clean this up so we don't get any tones. Tones are a mixture of black and white with the color. So we just want tints and shades. Tints are colors mixed with white. and shades or colors mixed with black. So we're just going for tints and shades on the Eaton color wheel. Okay, so now that we have this somewhat cleaned up, when you're doing your shades of purple, especially blue violet, I find blue violet very, very, very dark. It's going to go dark, really dark, very quickly. So don't worry about it, because on the color wheel it's gonna seem very dark. So this wasn't adulterated, so I can use this to begin with, meaning it wasn't mixed with anything other than the colors I mixed to make that blue violet. Okay, so let's go ahead and put one on this side. Seems like I'm going up and down, so I'm going to go ahead and put it over on this side. Go ahead and mix this up. And I want to clean this up so I can put my mother color blue violet right here and see how fast we go down. And we go down pretty fast, so let's go ahead and add a little bit to that. Maybe I'll add a little bit more. Notice I'm really wiping off my palette knife as I start going down, because I don't want to mess up my whole pile of mother color paint. Then I'll have to be back at the mixing board and do it. And I feel like this could be all right. Let's go ahead and mix some more into this little pile of black. And I'm going to go ahead and get some more of this and put it here and mix some in here, because I feel like it's going down a little fast. Now it's going down really slow. And mix this into there. I also needed a little bit more paint, so I can say, whoa, that's pretty good. I like that. That looks good to me. And then I'm going to go ahead and find out what's on my palette knife and see what that mixes up with this one. I feel like that might be pretty good as well, though there's not a whole lot of paint there, so I'm going to go ahead and put more paint in there. Maybe I'll put that whole little pile. And then it's looking too close to that, so I'm going to take it down. Ooh, that was a good amount of paint I picked up that last swab. So this might be my number 3. And I'm going to go ahead and find a number 2 in here. Number 2 shade. And again, I want to keep this wet, make sure those things back there don't dry out. And we're going to, I want to know what this looks like next to that one, because that one's got less black in it, and I feel like I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to switch these two positions. I'm going to keep this one here. See that? They can change places. That's awesome. Thank you guys for changing places. Okay, now I'm going to go into this one and take it a little bit more down. A little bit more down, not like the last time I did it. And I'm having to, as I'm up here mixing, I'm having to move my head back and forth to try to get the light and the glare off my palette to be able to really see the colors in different ways. So when you're mixing, you know, I know you can't move your head back and forth in with the video going, but those two are pretty close and those two are pretty far, so I'm gonna, that might be too much paint to add to this pile. So I'm gonna add a little bit less, put some of this stuff on here. That's pretty good. And then I'm going to take the stuff off of here and add it to this one. Take that one down a little bit more. When these dry, they dry so close to black, because these are nearly black as it is. And then this one is just a tiny little jump off of black, it feels like. And when it dries, it's going to dry so much darker. So we're not really going to see it. And a little bit more down. And I feel like that works pretty good. So we're going to clean up this. I can save a lot of that black. And we can go ahead and bring our color wheel over again. Go ahead and paint the shades on. Here it is. And see if I can situate it in a way that you guys can see it, and get a couple more paper towels out here for protection for the rest of the wheel. And get my brush, make sure it's nice and clean, and I'm going to start with shade number 2, or shade number 1. I think I might have just the right amount of paint. It's always disappointing when you have just a little bit less paint than you need. That's why it's important to always keep it wet before you're completely done. We can pull this over here and pull that one finished. I don't like any white places showing, so make sure that you kind of get right to the edges. I'm going to be cutting this out, so I don't, doesn't matter how straight this line on the very edge is. As long as I can cut straight with scissors, I'm good. Okay, that looks good. Twist off that in case I need that anymore for a second coat. And we'll go on to shade number 2. And we'll get a little darker. And then my last shade for my blue violet I don't need very much paint for this one. And there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and hair dry this, and I'm going to probably give it a second coat, and then I will come back and we will mix the violet shades and tints.